It's really odd. I went to the funeral of a man that was put to death by the state, and he did heinous things.
Who invited you?
The state. Believe it or not, the bright white light was right around him. Did he actually go in there and go straight to hell?
Did he go in the light or not? Did you see this?
Yes.
He did go in.
He did,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
This is Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God, because God is speaking to you and me and the church and the world, and here we get to listen in on the conversations. These encounter stories with angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences. Welcome, I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Well, in all of this, where do ghosts fit? Do they fit? Are they real? We're creeping up on Halloween, 2024. How do you feel about Ghost Trapper? Well, let me tell you, I wasn't sure until I met Maryann Winkowski, who spent 25 consecutive Halloweens with us on my radio show. Every Halloween morning, she was with us and dazzled all of us. She was able to do what I have never seen done anywhere else. And this, I'll just kind of set it up this way, and you'll hear about it in the episode as I go into the archives here. I'm going back 10 years for a conversation I had here in my home with Maryann. What she could do. Here's the bottom line. She would come into the studio, and we'd screen calls off air, and the person would start telling their story of why they thought they might have a ghost, and Maryann would give me a nod. Yes, no, like something there, something's not there. And so we'd save the ones, obviously, that, yeah, okay, hang on the line. And then on the air live, the person would state their case of what was going on in their home. And Maryann would say, yeah, it's a male. He's about 30. Looks like he died of a gunshot. And she would give all this information. And at some point, I would merely say, to prove the point, I would just say, Maryann, where is the ghost right now? Because over the phone, she said she was able to see into that person's home. She wouldn't see the living people, but she would see the dead person. And she would see what the room looked like. She would see the room. And I would just say, where is he standing? And she didn't ever give a vague answer. And you'll hear this. With great specificity, she would nail exactly in that home, the particular aspects of that home, and she would say, he's standing, da, da, da. And it was dazzling what she was able to see. It became very, very real. Then we even got into kind of interviewing the ghost, and it was, like I say, I've never heard anything quite like it, and you'll hear where we go with all of this. In fact, she even did it in my home, having never been here before, because there was something connected to a ghost, and my daughter at the time was very young, and having an imaginary friend, and suddenly we realized maybe there's something else going on here, and she described my home without ever coming to my home and where the ghost was. And you'll hear that. And what Maryann did for a living was to go to homes of people who had ghosts and remove them. How did she do that? It was Maryann's belief that people who were stuck here as ghosts never had gone into the light, that free will was even there in that aspect of life and the afterlife. You don't go into the light. You don't move to the next step. You're not judged. She believed these were people not yet judged by God, and they were hanging outside the light. For whatever reason, they hadn't gone into the light. So she, in her mind, provided a light for them to walk into. That was the goal. And once they did so, they then went on. She couldn't see it anymore. Others believed that what she was providing was, again, this service, if you will, of getting off this level. These people who were so stuck to the earth, so stuck to the things of the earth that they couldn't even get off the earth, that she somehow kicked them up just like a level higher, whether that's the southern part of purgatory or whatever it was. But it got them off of this plane, because everybody who had Maryann come to their home, their ghost was gone. There's no question. Everybody said the same thing. They were gone. She did something, providing the light that they then moved on to whatever the next step was. She was so good at what she did and became so known for it, is that CBS television wrapped the show Ghost Whisperer around her. Not that they listened to her to any great extent in terms of accuracy, but they would kind of go to her now and then for storylines and things like that. So CBS, right?
Yes.
CBS television series. Anything accurate?
4 sentences each week. That was it.
Were you allowed to get 4 sentences of accuracy in it?
That was about it.
Really?
Out of 42 minutes, because it's an hour show, but the rest are all commercials. So
you were consulting to a point, but this is still television, folks.
Well, they told me, get your head around it, Maryanne. It's entertainment. This is not a ghost documentary every Friday night.
Right.
And I says, yeah, but you don't understand. I says, everybody around here, after the show's on, it's like 30 calls. I thought you said a ghost can't do that. And I thought a ghost couldn't do that. And why are they letting them do that? I said, it was very soon after that, the producer called me, we were on the phone constantly with the writers if I wasn't there. And he says, what's wrong with you? I says, John, I'm getting a little tired of this. I said, I tell you, I talk to you all week long. I sit here on Friday night and I watch the show and it's like, you do it anyway. What the heck is wrong with you people? And he said, that's when he said about it being, entertainment. And I says, but John, you don't understand. I says, all the people that I do work for. And he started laughing. He says, Maryanne, you live in Ohio. You do most of your work in Ohio. He said, Ohio is the only state that knows this isn't true. The other 49 states thinks this is the way it should be.
Jennifer Love Hewitt. You met her, obviously.
Oh, many, many, many times.
She have any ghost experiences of her own?
Oh, she did.
Did she?
Yeah. She had the very, very first time that I went to her house, we were there, and she had a stalker in the house. And
the dead kind.
Yep. And
did she feel it? Did she think?
She knew it. She sensed it. And I wasn't going to tell her how much he was stalking her. So the interesting thing was I hadn't met any of the writers yet. So the very next day I'm going into the studios to meet the writers. There were 15 of them. And the showrunner says to me, so I heard you bust Love's house. I said, yeah. And he says, well, I want you to tell us about it. And I said, no. I said, I don't talk about other people's houses. I says, if you want to know what went on at her house, I said, you need to ask her. So we start talking and Love walks in. And, what happened, Love? What happened, Love? And so she says, I had a stalker and this was his name and this is where he died. She says, and he had said that they had gone to the same high school. He had told me that. But they did not graduate the same years. He was like about 5 years or 4 years ahead of her. And so she stood up and she came and stood behind me and she put her hands on my shoulders. And she says, and Maryanne, she says, I have to tell you this. She said, I called a couple of my girlfriends that had older brothers. And she said, when he got killed, he got killed riding a bicycle. When he had gotten killed, she said they went to his apartment to, get his stuff and close the apartment up. 2 walls of his apartment was filled with all of her pictures. That's how big of a stalker he was. And all the writers, nobody said anything. They just looked in. And the showrunner said, well, I guess you couldn't have known that.
See that now. Did they ever include that in an episode? Because that's a nice little episode.
Yeah, no, they didn't.
That would be that's just a great storyline. And I go back to one of the first things we ever did, you and I, with my old co-host Kenny Campbell, and he was out in somebody's house because there was a ghost, and so he was he was there kind of representing the station, if you will. And there was this older woman spirit that was kind of messing things up and negative energy in this house. And the hit you got was you started asking about this plate. You kept saying there's a plate. It looked, and it was a very specific kind of plate, some kind of special rim, oval, gold leafing, whatever it was. You were describing it, and the owner of the house said, "Oh yeah." She knew exactly what you're talking about. And then it was she wants to know where the rest of the set is, where you're missing some plates. This woman was so stuck to this earth. She couldn't let go of those plates.
It's crazy. They get attached to the silliest things. I can understand a woman being attached to really nice diamonds. Seriously. I mean, women love their diamonds, and that's probably one of the biggest things.
Really? Is there attachment to jewelry? You see a lot of that?
Yes, that's one of the reasons a lot of people, especially secondhand stores or auctions, men and their antique or vintage cars, that you're going to see a lot of ghosts with that too. And that almost makes more sense than somebody being attached to a dresser set or somebody being attached. The one guy was attached to, he collected, those mugs that men use with the brush to shave, where you put the soap in the cup or something. He had a collection of those. He stuck around because of those things. How silly.
Well, when you think about it, how can you get into heaven if that's what's important to you?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now, there's some legitimate, not right, but I can see their reasoning. A young father dies and his wife is crying and carrying on. He's got a 2-year-old. He sees the light. He sees his grandfather, and they're coaxing him, come on, come on, come on. But then he's looking at his wife and he's thinking, oh my gosh, I better stick around. The truth of the matter is, people don't realize when they take their last breath that they are standing still in this plane. They are not in the light yet. They are still right in the present. And I think it gives pause to a lot of them because he's seeing his wife crying, the little boy. So he's thinking, well, if I'm here, maybe I should stay and see if I can do something. They don't really know what they can or can't do. And that's why they let the light go.
There was a time we had someone on the phone, and this is how specific you are. And this is why when people kind of raise an eyebrow, it's like I tell them these stories. Is like you were saying, we were talking about whatever ghost was in the house or whatever. And I always ask, I say, okay, where's the ghost? Where's the ghost? Because I'm always looking, I want to prove to the audience that you are what you say you are. And you said, well, he's out in the backyard right now, standing next to the tractor. Now, no one in their right mind is going to say that, without, other people will say, oh, he's near a doorway, can't tell which one. No, he's in the backyard next to a tractor. And she went, which it was like, which tractor? It was like, it was like one of those things. And you just nailed it. You just absolutely nailed it. Or the time I had mentioned about, the woman who thinks that there's somebody in the car with her on every commute. That was so amazing. That when you're trying to identify what's on the highway, it can't do that, but you are wearing a blue butterfly clip in the back of your hair because you got it in a ponytail kind of thing, and she let out that wail. I mean, that's just crazy time,
Yeah, we're lucky she didn't run off the road and kill herself.
Yeah. Or the time we were at Channel 3 and it was, where's the ghost? Well, you're in your master bedroom. Okay. You know that pile of laundry you have in the chair? And she's going, because to me, that it just keeps restating and stating that, let's not mess around with is this or is this not. It's a little bit like the miracles. Let's not waste our time. Obviously, something's going on here,
Yeah.
When we've known each other about 27 years or thereabouts. And this is the first time you've been in the house, right?
This is the first time I've been in your house, yeah.
Yeah. And when Carolyn, our daughter, was preschoolish, she was 3, 4, somewhere around there. And she had her imaginary friend at dinner. She had set an extra place setting for her little imaginary friend. And then, I don't know what she said, but somewhere along the way, we thought... This is, and since we knew you, it was, well, maybe we should call Maryanne on this. Maybe there is something else going on here. And we called, and you started talking about, probably something for preschool that she had followed her home. And so the question to you was, where is the ghost standing? And you said, in her room, you have some kind of wall of dolls. And I'm sure there are a lot of little girls with walls of dolls, but we had a wall, and it just verified. And she said, don't worry, she'll go away when Carolyn gets a little older. And sure enough, after not that long a time.
It doesn't bother me when a mother or a father, somebody talks about their kids and their imaginary friends. However, sometimes ghost kids can be real bullies. And that bothers me if they're getting shoved or getting pushed or being woke up at night or somebody is breaking their toys all the time. And little ghost kids can do that.
Well,
Common
and that's the
sense.
thing. As you know, we've never met Mother Teresa on our little radio moments. So this is negative. I have yet to hear any angelic happenings with these individuals. Some seem more sedate than others, but there's obviously a lot of negative energy in this stuff that you're trying to help someone go to another level here.
Exactly. And the thing is this, even when it's a nice, sweet old lady ghost or a nice, sweet old man ghost or a little kid that's nice and sweet and just playing with your kids, they are still an energy drain. Right. They are still affecting things in the house. They don't use electric. It's like, gee, if you need energy, stick your finger in a plug. Yeah. But they don't do that. They need human energy. So even if they're nice, they're still an energy drain. Their energy messes with electric. That's why with all the equipment that you have in here, if there was a ghost standing here, this microphone wouldn't work, your computers would not work. They would be,
affected somehow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're okay in the house right now?
You are. You're fine. That's one of the reasons why 99% of the houses I do, the people that own the house do not know who the ghost is because your own relative wouldn't do this to you.
How do you think it works? How does it work when, for instance, you talk to people on the phone and you know whether or not there's a ghost in the house or wherever they are? Mm-hmm. Are you, from what vantage point are you seeing this?
When it first started, when I first was able to do that, which was not from the beginning, it was many years later that I developed that. At first, I actually thought that I was looking through the ghost's eyes because I could see the room that they were in. I could see a dresser. I could see the wall of dolls. I could see all of that. But then I could also tell if it was a man or a woman or approximately how old they were, how tall they were, whatever kind of clothes they had on. And I'm thinking, no, I'm not in them. I'm viewing them from the outside. And to be honest, this was God's plan because I had been going to houses not knowing. I would just go to somebody's house because they thought they had a ghost in their house. They had seen the Amityville Horror House, and they had seen with the little woman, This House is Clean Now, whatever show that
Poltergeist.
was. Poltergeist, there you go. Right. And people's imagination sometimes, you just mention something and, oh yeah, it's the truth. So I would drive, and I was living in Worcester at the time when this happened. And so I would drive all the way up to Cleveland, and I would go in houses, and nobody was there. And
what a waste to drive.
Yes. And at the time, this is what I do for a living now. But back then I didn't charge or anything. And we were foster parents, and we only watched infants. So I did with the foster babies what I would do with our own girls when they were babies. If I was going to go do somebody's house, I'd take the kids with me. Mm-hmm. And I was not a happy camper. So I went to bed that night, and I said my prayers. And then I sat up in bed, and I says, and by the way, God, if you want me to keep doing this, you have to come up with plan B. I says, because this just isn't working.
During these conversations, we want you to come out to the house. During those moments, you weren't getting any kind of hit of
nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely
Until after you said your prayer.
After I said my prayers, and
then suddenly you realized you could see something on that phone call.
Well, it was about 3 weeks later. It's not like today where I get 30, 40 calls a day. Back then, if I got 3 or 4 calls a month. So I was in the kennel room. I had just finished grooming Schnauzer, and I was waiting for the owner to come and get it. And the little foster baby, was asleep in a pack pen. And the phone rings, and I pick it up, and this lady goes, "Can you help me?" And I said, what do you need? And she says, "I have a ghost in my house." And all of a sudden, I see peacock feathers in a really bright blue vase. I am not a psychic. I'm looking at these feathers. So this woman had stopped talking, and she said, well, honestly, I didn't hear a word she had said. And I said, let me ask you a question. I says, do you have a bright blue vase that has peacock feathers in it? She said, yeah. She says, but let me ask you this. And I'm thinking, wow. What
Yeah,
what is
what are you jumping over that one for?
Right. What was this about? So then I see these feathers on a gray stone in front of a fireplace, and the fireplace had a really odd mantle. And I said to her, "Let me ask you," I says, "on your mantle, the middle mantle," I said, "is there a picture of a tree on there?" I said, "with pictures on it?" She said, "Yes, my father-in-law made that." She said, "It is so ugly."
What a real curious woman that she's not asking you, how the heck do you know that?
Right. Well,
Gee.
that did it.
Yeah.
As soon as I said that, she says, "How do you know that?" I said, "I don't know, but I think I need to come to your house."
Yeah.
She had 2 ghosts in her house.
But during that call, you couldn't see them.
No,
Okay.
no.
That
I
came
could
later.
not.
That
right.
You are able to see the spirit until the funeral. Always, would you say?
I can see the spirit. The spirit has the light will stay with the spirit for 48 to 72 hours after the final memorial service, and I can see them up till that point.
And then they're
Then
gone.
if they go into the light, I cannot see them anymore. But if they choose not to go to the light, then I can see them. Yes, I can still see them.
Mm-hmm. There's this stuckness. So it appears that this is hell, as far as the spirits that you're experiencing,
Right.
talking about. The fact that we're not meeting Mother Teresa on these little experiences, and the fact that there's negative energy, it seems that this is it's not permanent hell, it's temporary hell. Because the fact that you can show them the light, you would you call it a prayer? What would you call when you show them a light? What would you call it?
It's a vision that I have. I visually produce the white light on the side of a wall, and I cannot see in there because I have, I'm alive. Mm-hmm. But the spirit that I want to walk in there can actually see people in there that have died before them. Oh yeah, there's my wife. Oh yeah, okay, I see my brother. Mm-hmm. It's a reason to cross into the light. It gives them more motivation to go. And there was a little boy I couldn't get to go into the light, and I said, "Isn't there anybody in there that you want to see?" And he said no, and he was so adamant about it. And I said, "What about your dog?" He goes, "Could I see Sam?" And I said, "Oh yeah." I'm thinking, please let there be Sam in the light.
Yeah.
And he started walking like a little boy would walk, just scuffing his toes. And I'm going, go,
dragging,
go. And all of a sudden he said, "Lady, there's Sam." He saw the dog. I think that hell, I think live people can get themselves in a place that's hell-like. But people that have not crossed over, I've asked every kind of religious person, ministers, rabbis, Native American shamans, is this hell? Is this purgatory? You know what? Nobody has a definitive answer.
Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to think of another explanation for why all this negative energy, and there's obviously something there. There's a spirit, there's an afterlife. In purgatory, from the people we have talked to who have had these experiences, whether in heaven or in purgatory, they do experience angels. On the purgatory level, they see the demons as well as the good angels.
Right.
On this level, do any of these spirits talk about anything like that, seeing anything
They
like that?
don't see angels, and they do not see any
Fallen
kind of
angels.
demons. Nothing. Now, it's interesting. Some of the earthbound spirits can see spirits that have crossed over, however.
So a spirit seeing spirits.
Right. And
that would make sense.
Yeah, but not all can, because a lot of times they'll say, "Well, tell Bill that his father's coming through about once a week." And sure enough, his father had died, and so he's got a message for you. So sometimes, I can get a message from somebody that's crossed over if the earthbound spirit that's in the house has that ability. But, it's really odd. I went to the funeral of a man that was put to death by the state, and he did heinous things. it was a death that was 100% accurate.
Right.
And there he was standing next to his pine box, and he had his jail outfit on, and believe it or not, the bright white light was right around him. That light is for everybody. But in my way of thinking, and I have to believe this, because the bad things that particular man did, and he is not going to end up where Mother Teresa is. I have to believe somebody is standing in that light with the clipboard deciding which way you're going.
Because you don't think they've been judged yet.
I do not. Not
You
until
think
they
that's
go
free
into
will.
the light.
You think that's free will also.
That's
you don't
right.
But what if that's your judgment? What if that's your temporary judgment, that you have been judged, and you're so stuck to this earth and your plates that this is where you're going to be until you can switch that mindset into that higher level of...
But how do you do that when you're an earthbound spirit? I can see changing your life when you're still here.
Right.
But how would you change it as you can't...
I do think there's love in that light. I think what you offer, I'm just thinking that what you offer, the beautiful service you offer, is that heavenly light, that there is love in there.
Oh, yeah.
And somehow you're altering their state to a higher level of understanding of love. And when they walk in there, even if it's to get to the next level, purgatory or whatever it is, it gets them out of this realm. And is that possible? That you're kicking them up in some way, shape, or form. There's no doubt about it.
I'm giving them the chance to make the decision to go into it, because even I still can't grab them and throw them in.
Right,
they still have
got a
free will.
thing, yeah. And that's state of mind. That's I get
right.
That's state of mind.
And so once they go into it, I would be very curious to know, I know what my belief system is, but I would be very curious to know, this guy that they put to death by the state, did he actually go in there and go straight to hell?
Did he go in the light or not? Did you see this?
Yes,
guy?
yes.
He did go in.
He
Okay.
did,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And their main reason for having me there was that he had killed more than one person.
Who invited you?
The state.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And,
really?
Yes.
Very
And
interesting.
he had killed more than one person. They knew two people and they had their bodies, but they also knew over the years that there had been at least 4 other deaths that they know he did them. They wanted me to get from him where the bodies were of those 4 people, so that the families of those people could have closure. He gave me 3 of them.
And once they cross into that light, you never see them again.
I do not.
They're gone, and the homes that you are, ridding people of their ghosts, they don't have that experience again.
Ever.
Let's pause right about here. Then more with Ghost Whisperer, Ghostbuster. Oh, the reason we never could say, or rather, she couldn't say Ghostbuster, is because of the movie, obviously. So she couldn't call herself that. CBS called her Ghost Whisperer. But we always called her Ghostbuster Maryann Winkowski. But anyway, we'll get back to more stories here. A quick Patreon shout out. Thanks, Samantha. Samantha DeSanto is in the Patreon family and believes in what we're doing around here. If you do as well, and want to join the Patreon family to support what we do, go to patreon.com, search for Trapper Jack, or come here to this episode 339 and just click your way through. It's funny because this is kind of the paranormal world we're dealing with in this, and God is the original paranormal, if you will. But that's where Roy found us. I was on a paranormal show because the paranormal audience is fascinated by this holy world that we talk about on most of these podcast episodes of angels and Jesus and Mary and all of that. But because this is one of the mysteries, ghosts, part of the mystery, afterlife, mystery, revealed in many near-death experiences, revealed in this episode here, part of the afterlife. So Roy was listening to AM Coast to Coast with George Norrie, and I popped up, and he was reminding me of that. And
July 7th, 20...
I'm going to tell you all about him, but he's got a podcast called Touched by Heaven. That'll give you an idea.
Can you hear that at all?
yeah, as George Norrie, AM Coast to
that's
Coast.
you.
Yeah. Coast to Coast AM, yeah.
It's Trapper Jack, also known as Philip Keller, back with us.
I just wanted you to know. like I said, I drifted away from the church. So then I got disenchanted and I moved anyway. So then I left the church. I never got into another church. Then I found you. Now I'm still going because of you. I always use you as my poster child. Like if somebody's in their 20s and 30s and an older parent says, I don't know, they're not really close to the church and stuff. I go, Trevor was the same way.
Yeah.
I always use you as my poster child.
Thanks, Roy. Love you with the family, along with Eleanor and your daughter, Tiffany. Thanks so much. Patreon.com, or come here to episode 339 here at Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God, touchedbyheaven.net. Going back to when you were very small, very, 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 very young, and realized that you were seeing things others weren't, or maybe you weren't sure yet. But let's go back to that time. You were being dropped off at Grandma's house. Folks were going on someplace else, and tell that story.
And that week that I was there, somebody had died. And so I'm in this little sunroom playing one morning, and Grandma and Grandpa didn't speak English at that time. They only spoke Italian. And so I'm playing and I'm talking to somebody, and Grandma stands in the doorway and she's listening to me, and she realizes that I'm talking to the person that she had just told Grandpa about. And she thought, uh-oh, she overheard me talking about this. So she says, Maryanne, who you talking to? And I told her. And she says, yeah, where is he? And I told her. And she said, well, ask him this and ask him that and ask him this. I did, and I gave her answers. And that's when I was 4, that's when she started taking me to funerals. She realized that I could see and talk to him.
Yeah, and I think about the time. Remember, I had a co-host for a short period of time, Johnny, and he was with you the time that you actually got cut.
Oh yeah,
actually drew blood from your neck, believe
right.
it or not. He watched it happen. You weren't touching yourself, and suddenly,
right.
As bizarre as that sounds, but this is one nasty ghost that was hanging out in the basement.
Yes, he was bad, and the trouble was I couldn't get that door opened all the way. The basement floor had buckled or something, and it was one of those old fruit cellar type doors, and I was trying to open that door to get inside because he wouldn't come out, and I just did the silly thing as I tried to pull it, and finally I just thought, well, I'll get my head in there and see what I can see. Ba-ding, got it.
Yeah.
So
didn't they in that one? As I remember it, was that the one where there was like a screen, like a window screen inside that room, propped against the door so that you couldn't open? There was like something physically done inside.
Right.
I've
already done a house where I tried to get into a well room, and I went in, I turned the knob, and I, go to open it up, and I got it open about an inch, and they pushed back.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay, I'll come back. And
should I start playing the creepy music?
Yeah,
for
right. But then others are just fine. It just every day's a new experience.
This was how long a drive to get here today? How long a drive was that?
To you hear where
I'm
I'm
at? 20, 30 minutes away?
It was about a half hour.
Okay. Along the way, see anything along the way?
Not really. You know what? How much energy are they going to get hanging out on a corner?
Yeah. And they're not driving a car.
No, but
they're riding in them.
They can.
Yeah.
You're going to have more of them hanging out in a mall or a theater or a stadium.
And we've talked about hospitals, especially
yes.
A long time old inner city hospitals. There's a lot of activity there, isn't there?
City hospitals are full. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I remembered it just because it was in the newspaper this week. I guess we're at the anniversary now of when the gas explosion happened in Cleveland 30, 40, 50 years ago, when it took out a big section of Cleveland.
Okay.
And I think it was the 3rd year of Ghost Whisperer, because we were on for 5. I think it was the 3rd year. They had said, what do you got, anything with explosions or anything like that? And I said, well, actually, I did run across ghosts that died in the 30s and the 40s in a big explosion that happened here. And that's how that got incorporated into that story about the explosion. So they used a lot of my cases. You have anything with kids, so I would tell them stuff with kids,
so
and they would combine 3 or 4 of them together, and then. Hollywoodize it.
Right. And you also, you had, I don't think it ever came to fruition, at least not yet. You had some people following you around as a potential reality show, right?
Yes, I did, but it turned out that
Yes.
yeah, it turned out that I was the stories were great, and they believed me, and they believed that I could do what I do, but I don't fit the type of person that should be on TV. My size was absolutely a definite no-no, and I'm too old.
Wait, what's the gal in New York? The New York, what is she called? The medium there. What do they call her? New York Madam, Lolita, Long Island Lolita. What are they called? What is she?
Long Island Medium.
Long Island Medium. Yeah.
Right.
And what is she? She's a character. I mean, obviously she's a character.
I don't know, but
so you're not sexy enough for him. Is that what you're trying to say, Maryanne?
That's pretty much. I'm sort of dull. Yeah.
I don't think you're dull, and you certainly don't have dull stories. Let's talk a little bit about there are on your website, which is spell Maryanne for everybody.
MaryannWinkowski.
So your version of Maryanne is, I mean, you know how many variations of Maryanne
yes,
there
I
are?
do. Mary, signing books. You can't. There's 16 different ways to spell Mary. Oh my gosh.
So it's Maryann, all one word.
Correct.
Winkowski.com.
Yes.
I got to tell you, I've heard so many shows with ghost hunters and ghost this and ghost that, and I have never met anyone like you, and I met you so early. You're a delight, Maryanne. You've always been a delight, and you've always been so good to me, and always, every Halloween, no matter where the world calls you on Halloween morning, you are always with us.
I did it from an airport payphone that one time, remember?
I forgot that. That's right.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
Airport payphone.
Please insert another 25 cents.
I know. It was like, oh, really?
Thanks, Maryanne. As we are just days away from Halloween 2024, and so we open up this door that people seem to be so fascinated with, and a great reminder of what to be connected to and what to disconnect from. We don't want to be so connected to plates and jewelry and cars and, what was it, shaving mugs. It's amazing what we get connected to, houses, things of this world, and it can actually keep you on this planet, not a place you want to stay, So fascinating. What's your story? Let me know here at touchedbyheaven.net. Thanks for the Patreon help, patreon.com. And see you next week here at Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack, host of the most heavenly podcast on the planet.
Ohio is the only state that knows this isn't true.